Alright, let's go right into Carthage. Now, Carthage arguably is my most favorite faction because of what they can bring to the table. Versatility. Unlike Rome, Carthage relies heavily on their mercenaries. Without them, you would have a faction that mimics Rome but has stronger spears and better javelin men. Carthage has access to, in my opinion, the best mid-tier medium melee unit in the game, which are Scutari, which I'll go over next stream, which allows them to have potent second-line infantry that can be used for flanking maneuvers should they see fit. A deadly high-tier melee unit, Noble Fighters, which I'll also be going over next stream, and Great Cavalry, which is the Numidian Noble Cavalry or Scutari Cav. The Scutari Cav I'll go over next stream as well, but the Numidian Noble Cavalry I'll go over this stream. Carthage is a Hellenic faction that is in Africa, like Egypt, so they have access to African elephants, which can be useful if you use them right, but they aren't always necessary. Carthage also has access to a handful of barbaric units, meaning they can keep you guessing even before the battle begins. Because they are a hybrid faction, they have all culture types. With the Hellenic factions, it's the spears. With the Romans, they have Italian units, Samnites and Italian units. They also have Campanian cavalry. With the barbarians, they have Scutari, Gallic warriors, and so on. And then with the Eastern factions, it is the shock cavalry. Because of this, Carthage has a unique units that can answer almost everything, other units, pretty much. With this versatility, however, you have to be smart. Rome can out-specialize you in the heavy infantry game. The barbarians can be more offensive than you in certain circumstances. The Eastern factions can bring heavier cavalry, and the Hellenic factions can bring better spear units. Most of the time, you will be outdone in certain areas, so you have to try to find a way around it. Rome has better melee infantry, but not spears. Rome can take melee engagements, but they are not as flexible as most of Carthage's melee units. The Hellenic factions overall have access to better hoplites, the exception being regular hoplites, which actually do lose to Carthaginian hoplites. But hoplites rely on the phalanx to win engagements, especially against melee units, and they don't have precursors, or javelins, that are assigned to melee units. The successors in general rely on a mixture of pikemen and shock cavalry, but their mid-tier melee cav can still be beaten by Carthage's, which I'll probably talk about next stream. The Eastern factions will be able to hit hard with their shock cav, but their melee infantry are lackluster. In my opinion, the strongest unit that the Eastern factions can bring belongs to probably Pontus with their bronze shield pikemen, followed by Parthian swordsmen. Scutari can beat Parthian swordsmen for sure, but frontally they might lose against bronze shield pikemen, so you have to be more flexible with them. What this means is you can bring a unit like Scutari and still expect to beat 3 or 4 units from most Eastern armies. So to summarize, be smart, but be cautious. To excel with Carthage, you must know the game and other factions' strengths and weaknesses. Therefore, I don't recommend playing as Carthage if you are new to Rome 2, unless you feel the need to try them out. Carthage has an answer to everyone, and so therefore I believe they beat everyone, but they also lose to everyone. Sorry about that. But yeah, Carthage is versatile. They beat everybody slightly, but they lose to nobody really slightly. So what does your typical Carthaginian army look like? Most players that I've come up across use African war elephants as a general's unit. I don't see this anymore, however. Most times they'll use noble cavalry. I prefer the general's bodyguard just because I know how to preserve my general pretty well. However, some new players probably don't. Carthage, their melee roster is versatile. They have Gallic warriors instead of Celtic warriors. Gallic warriors have 4 more melee defense, I think. Let me just check. No, they have 8 more melee defense, but 2 less melee attack. So Gallic warriors, I think, will win against Celtic warriors in a prolonged fight. But Gallic warriors have less of an impact than Celtic warriors do. Like, Celtic warriors are much better, in my opinion. Iberian swordsmen, I'll go over next stream. Italian swordsmen are pretty good. Scutari, I'll go over next stream. And yeah, when it comes to spears, your best unit comes from the Sacred Band. If you don't have the Hannibal at the Gates DLC, you don't get access to this, or this, or this, and I think this as well. And maybe not even Balearic Slingers. You definitely don't get Campanian Cav. You do, however, get... You also don't get Numidian Noble Cavalry, but if you get the DLC and you want a good Jav Cav, these guys are very nice. It's hard to make them cost effective sometimes, but you know, it's kind of worth it to bring them. Their charge bonus is 30, weapon damage is 36, 6 of which is armor piercing, melee attack 65. They don't get a lot of love, but they're a pretty good unit. If you bring elephants, like I said before, you don't have to, but if you do, in my opinion, African war elephants are just that much better than African elephants. The reason why they have 18 men instead of 9 is because there's two people per round instead of 1. Yeah, 2 people instead of 1 on each mount. So what does a typical Carthaginian army look like? Nowadays it will be a noble cav general. Most of the times you'll see like a few Libyan infantry, followed by a Scutari, and maybe noble fighters. Either 1 or 2. People usually don't bring the Sacred Band. They don't think it's reliable enough, and that's fair. I mean, they could be a bit better, but they are pretty good. Sometimes you'll have the odd person bring African pikemen. Pikemen for Carthage is pretty useful. However, my playstyle requires me to not bring pikemen. Missile infantry wise, Libyan peltasts are better than Libyan javelin men. I'd much rather bring Libyan peltasts than javelin men, but if you can, bring Balearic slingers because they're very useful. Or Cretan archers if you want like a skirmishing unit that can support your melee infantry. Shot cav wise, noble cavalry are very good. You might see like 1. Might see like 1, especially if they have a general that's 1 already. Sometimes you'll see 2. I wouldn't over exaggerate on the importance of shot cav though, because melee cav are pretty good. Celtic horse, Iberian cavalry, Carthaginian cavalry is really nice. Carthaginian cavalry, I think, is better than Succi Equites, but I can't confirm that. Scutari cavalry are good, but they do lose to auxiliary cavalry on the charge. Campanian cavalry don't get used a lot. They are sword cavalry. They do not have a bonus versus large, therefore. But it could be useful to make them cost effective. It's just that you'd have to keep them in melee a bit longer to make them cost effective. And you can't charge them into spears or else they'll lose. Or you can't keep them in a fight with spears there. So yeah, your typical roster would probably look something like this. You might add a few units in, who knows. Might add a few Iberian swordsmen, you might add a few Samnite warriors. It's up to you. Just remember that Carthage's main strength is the diversity, the mixture, all these cultures coming together into one faction to be very, very effective. If you don't remember that, you're really slowing yourself down. You're trying to specialize in one area. If you do that, then what happens is you'll end up having a lot of problems. So I'm going to take a half a minute and a half break, and I'll see you guys then.